Imagine, weighing maybe 5 or 6 pounds, living in a world where everyone's kneecaps are literally at your eye level, and yet you are absolutely convinced you're the biggest, toughest creature in the room.
Right, the classic small dog ego.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that delusion is the daily reality of the Chihuahua. When most of us bring a new dog into our homes, there's this expectation of, like, a honeymoon phase.
Cozy cuddles, peaceful walks.
Yeah, just seamless integration. But then you bring home this tiny, highly vocal creature who seems to have a completely different, almost militant agenda.
Oh, absolutely.
And suddenly you find yourself asking, usually in a tone of just utter exasperation, like, why is my dog acting like this?
It's a super common wall that owners hit. The relationship suddenly becomes defined by friction instead of affection.
Yeah.
And you see it constantly with this specific breed because the reality of living with them clashes so violently with our modern assumptions about what a lap dog is supposed to be.
Which is exactly why we're jumping into today's deep dive. Welcome in, everyone. We are pulling insights today from a really fascinating set of materials out of the Chihuahua Health Academy, specifically focusing on their research into behavior and trainability.
It's a great source.
It really is. And our mission today for you, the listener, is to take that frustrated question, why is my Chihuahua acting like this?
Yeah.
And shift it to a much more empathetic, productive question.
Right.
Which is, what is my Chihuahua actually trying to tell me?
That really is a massive paradigm shift. And if there's like one core insight to pull from the Academy's research to set the stage for everything we're going to explore today, it's this.
Okay.
A Chihuahua isn't trying to be a big dog. It simply doesn't realize it's a small one.
Wow.
Yeah, it operates with a psychological framework that is entirely unbothered by its physical scale.
I love that framing. It reminds me of bringing home a tiny foreign exchange student. You wouldn't just sit there and get mad at them for not speaking your language or, understanding your household customs.
No, of course not.
Right. You would recognize that they have their own culture, their own way of communicating, and the onus is really on you to learn how to translate their language.
That is a brilliant analogy because to translate their language, we actually have to understand where they come from.
Yeah.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we really have to look past their modern reputation as these fragile handbag accessories. We have to look at their ancient roots in Central America, going all the way back to the Toltec and Aztec civilizations.
So we're talking about their ancestor, the Taquichi.
Precisely. The Taquichi wasn't just a random feral dog. They were cultivated and valued across centuries for a very specific behavioral profile.
Right.
If you think about a herding dog, like a border collie or, a hunting breed,
Sure.
those dogs were bred to work out in a field, away from human company, making their own independent decisions based on movement or scent.
Yeah, they're doing their own thing.
Exactly. The Chihuahua's ancestors were bred for the exact opposite. They were selected, generation after generation, for intense attentiveness to humans and mutual bonding.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were spiritual companions, bed warmers, and just constant shadows.
So we're talking about a dog that was essentially engineered on a biological level to be hyper-focused on us.
Yes, and that history alters their actual brain chemistry. Over hundreds of years, humans selected for pups that stayed closest.
Wow.
So a Chihuahua's dopamine hits, like their internal reward system, are fundamentally tied to proximity to their human, not to chasing a rabbit or herding sheep.
That makes a ton of sense.
And that history explains the intense attachment we see today, where a Chihuahua will bond with one or two people in a household and just become glued to them.
The classic Velcro dog.
Yes. It isn't a glitch, it isn't negative neediness, and it certainly isn't a failure on the owner's part to train them well. It is a highly successful genetic inheritance playing out exactly as it was designed to.
Okay, let's unpack this because I feel like there's a trap here.
Oh, there definitely is.
If they are genetically wired, literally on a chemical level, to be glued to my side, isn't it fighting their nature to try and make them independent? I mean, why not just let them be the Velcro dog they were born to be?
That is a very fair pushback. But we have to distinguish between a healthy genetic drive for connection and a pathological dependence.
Okay.
Acknowledging their drive for proximity doesn't mean we abandon the need for emotional balance. If a dog's entire sense of security is tied exclusively to the physical presence of one specific human, their nervous system is going to be in a constant state of fragility.
Oh, because what happens when that human goes to the grocery store?
Exactly.
Their whole world falls apart. Cortisol spikes. Panic sets in.
Right, exactly. The mechanism at play. Their security crumbles into chronic stress. So the goal the Academy outlines isn't to break the bond. It is to broaden their baseline sense of safety.
Okay.
You want to build a resilient nervous system so they can exist comfortably without a flood of stress hormones, even when their favorite person leaves the room.
That makes a ton of sense. And, understanding that they're historically hardwired to be these hyper-attentive, highly bonded co-pilots leads us perfectly into what is probably the absolute #1 complaint people have.
Oh, the noise.
The noise. Since we now know they're bred to be observant of their environment and their humans, it tracks perfectly why they feel the need to loudly announce every single thing they see.
The barking. Yes, it is the most common owner frustration by a mile.
Easily.
But again, we have to reframe this through the lens of their history. This isn't just random, annoying noise. It is an inherited watchdog instinct.
They're just doing their job.
Yes. They are telling you, the rest of their pack, that something in the environment has shifted.
They're essentially the household's dedicated news anchor. Like, the mailman is here, a leaf blew across the window, the neighbor coughed.
That's exactly how they see it. And what's fascinating here is that because this is a deep-seated instinctual behavior, the goal has to be managing the instinct, not eliminating it. You cannot train a watchdog to stop noticing things. Trying to suppress that completely is an exercise in futility.
So what do we do when they start going off at the front window? Because just yelling quiet from the couch never seems to work.
It never works because of how they interpret your shouting. To a Chihuahua, when they bark at a threat and you start yelling, you aren't correcting them, you're just barking along with them.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. So they think we're joining in.
Totally. You are validating that there is a crisis. The most effective approach is using positive reinforcement to redirect that alert bark toward a specific productive action.
So you capture the behavior.
Yes. They notice the mailman, they give an alert bark, and instead of shouting, you acknowledge it calmly. You're essentially saying, "Thank you for the report. I have taken over the watch."
I love that.
Then you teach them to move to a designated spot like a mat or offer a simple sit command, and you reward that secondary action.
Right.
You give them a job to do after they sound the alarm. You are rewarding the de-escalation rather than punishing the initial alert.
That feels so much more manageable for their sensitive, attachment-driven temperaments. But, barking at a mailman is one thing. What about the ankle-biting stereotype?
Oh, yeah.
Because you hear that all the time. The Chihuahuas are just naturally aggressive, mean little dogs.
That is perhaps the most damaging myth about the breed.
Really?
Yeah, the research firmly dismantles this misconception. Well, it looks like aggression in a Chihuahua, the growling, the lunging, snapping at unfamiliar people or dogs, is almost always fear-based reactivity.
So it's not malice, it's just distance-creating behavior, like, I'm terrified, get away.
Exactly. Think about the physics of the world from their perspective. A human reaching down to pet them is a giant looming shadow descending from the sky.
Right. He would be terrifying.
If they haven't been taught early on that the world is safe, their nervous system perceives that reach as a mortal threat. They use their teeth to create distance because they feel they have no other option.
And I imagine if you punish that fear.
Oh, you make it exponentially worse.
Yeah.
Think of it like yelling at someone who is having a panic attack because they are terrified of spiders. Yelling at them doesn't make them less afraid of spiders. It just makes them afraid of spiders and terrified of you.
That's a great analogy.
Punishing a fear response confirms to the dog that the situation was indeed dangerous. The only real fix is patient counterconditioning.
Meaning you have to literally rewire their neurological association with the thing that scares them.
You are changing the chemistry in their brain. If a dog is terrified of strangers, you keep them at a distance where they notice the stranger but aren't reacting yet.
Okay.
The moment the stranger appears, you feed the dog a high-value treat. Over time, the brain stops anticipating a threat and starts anticipating a reward.
Wow.
Cortisol drops, dopamine rises. Physiologically, a dog cannot be terrified and anticipating a delicious snack at the exact same time.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Yeah. Understanding that this bad behavior is actually rooted in profound fear brings us to a pretty harsh truth from the source material.
Yes, it does.
Often, the well-meaning owners are the ones accidentally causing that fear in the first place through overprotection.
It is a profound irony in small dog ownership.
It's essentially helicopter parenting for dogs.
Totally.
We look at this tiny 5-pound delicate creature, And our immediate primate instinct is to just scoop them up. We carry them in bags, we hold them when another dog walks by.
Right.
But constantly carrying a Chihuahua because they seem fragile is actually robbing them of the chance to develop any spatial awareness or coping skills.
It's like putting them in a developmental sensory deprivation chamber.
Oh, wow.
We have to retire the myth that they're too fragile to socialize and happier if they're always carried. When you constantly pick up a dog to save them from a situation, they never learn the physical boundaries of their environment.
Yeah.
They don't learn how to retreat on their own, how to navigate obstacles, or how to interpret the subtle body language of other dogs.
Because they never learn that they can handle the world themselves.
Right. A dog that never interacts with the world on its own four paws develops a deep, profound uncertainty about an environment it has never been allowed to properly experience.
That is so sad, honestly.
It really is. True confidence isn't built by keeping them in a protective bubble. It is built by ongoing, calm, positive new experiences throughout adulthood, not just when they are puppies.
So, taking a new walking route, sitting calmly on a cafe patio, letting them approach a new object at their own pace.
Precisely. They need to navigate the world to realize their own competence within it.
Which brings up a very practical challenge. If we are finally putting them on the ground to build their confidence, we have to give them the mental tools to navigate that world safely.
Absolutely.
Which means obedience training.
And here we hit another major cultural misconception.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that Chihuahuas are impossible to train, or worse, that they don't need obedience training because they are small enough to just physically control when they misbehave.
Which feeds right back into the helicopter parenting problem. If they misbehave, we just pick them up. So we never bother teaching them to sit or stay.
The Academy materials completely shatter this idea. Chihuahuas are highly intelligent, genuinely capable learners. Remember, they were bred for intense focus on humans.
Yeah.
That makes them highly trainable, and they are incredibly food motivated.
But there is a huge caveat with the food motivation. The calorie math.
The calorie math is absolutely crucial, and it's where a lot of training attempts fail. We have to think about their metabolism.
Yeah.
Because of their tiny size, giving a Chihuahua a standard dog biscuit during training is the caloric equivalent of a human eating an entire wedding cake just for answering a trivia question correctly.
That is an amazing visual. I mean, you give them 3 standard treats, and they are completely stuffed, lethargic, and no longer motivated to learn.
Right.
Not to mention the long-term health risks of obesity on their tiny joints.
Which is why training requires microscopic, high-value treats, a piece of boiled chicken the size of a pea.
A pea.
And the sessions themselves need to respect their biology. Short and upbeat. 3 minutes of training a few times a day keeps their dopamine levels high and holds their enthusiasm far better than a grueling 20-minute drill.
I like to liken obedience training for a Chihuahua to teaching a toddler to look both ways before crossing the street.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, when you have a dog this physically vulnerable, one that could easily be injured by a bicycle or a larger animal, basic commands aren't just cute parlor tricks to show off to your friends.
No, not at all.
A reliable recall, a solid leave it, basic impulse control. These are literal life-saving safety tools.
They are non-negotiable for survival. If a big dog drops a toxic piece of food, like a grape or chocolate, or if the Chihuahua slips its harness near a busy road, a rock-solid leave it and come are the literal difference between life and death.
Wow.
Furthermore, well, actually, beyond just the safety aspect, teaching impulse control, like waiting calmly for a meal or settling on a mat on cue, helps regulate their nervous system.
Oh, interesting.
It teaches them how to downshift from that constant state of alert excitement, which makes daily life calmer for the dog and the owner.
So let's pull all these threads together. Let's say we've got a Chihuahua who has basic training. We've stopped carrying them in a purse everywhere, so they're building actual ground-level confidence. And we're managing their watchdog barking with positive redirection.
Okay.
How does a dog with that delusion of scale, that total lack of physical self-awareness, actually fit into the chaotic ecosystem of a modern household?
This is where we see all these concepts collide, their physical vulnerability masking as bravery and their intense Velcro-like attachment style.
Let's look at the physical dangers first. Toddlers and big dogs.
They are essentially the two most unpredictable forces in a home. With young children, Chihuahuas can form wonderful bonds, but because a toddler's motor skills are erratic, they can easily trip over or accidentally squeeze a tiny dog.
Yeah.
A startled Chihuahua is a fearful Chihuahua. One rough handling incident can instantly ruin the confidence you've worked so hard to build, leading straight back to that fear-based ankle biting we
And
discussed.
with big dogs, the danger is almost entirely driven by the Chihuahua's own ego.
Exactly. Because the Chihuahua doesn't know it's small, it has immense bravery but zero awareness of its own fragility.
Oh boy,
They might happily march up to a Mastiff to challenge them over a toy, completely unaware that a single corrective snap from the bigger dog could be fatal.
that is terrifying.
The owners have to be the judgment the Chihuahua lacks. Supervised, carefully managed interactions are vital.
What about quieter dynamics? Seniors or households with cats?
They are an exceptional match for seniors. Their small size and desire for constant physical proximity suit a quieter household beautifully.
That makes sense.
But the research adds a crucial caveat. Being in a quiet house doesn't mean they stop needing to engage their brains. They still need that mental stimulation and daily confidence building. As for cats, it's very achievable, but it relies on controlling the environment. You don't just toss them in a room together. It requires scent swapping, visual barriers, and gradual positive early experiences.
Which leaves one major household dynamic that directly challenges everything we learned about their ancient Aztec breeding.
Oh, right.
When the house is totally empty.
Alone time, which is incredibly hard for a nervous system historically wired to be a constant human shadow.
Yeah, especially if you're working from home. It's so easy to just let them sleep on your lap during every Zoom meeting.
But owners must deliberately practice leaving the dog alone, even if they never technically leave the house.
Wait, really?
Yes. You have to teach their brain that distance does not equal abandonment. You do this using safe spaces, like a cozy crate, and providing puzzle toys like snuffle mats or lickables.
Ah, okay.
The act of sniffing and licking actually releases endorphins that soothe their nervous system. If you never practice this, you risk them developing severe separation distress.
You mean the destructive behavior, the excessive howling, the pure panic?
Yes. And this raises an important question regarding the lifelong care of this breed. What if you have done all of this correctly? Your Chihuahua is trained, confident on the ground, comfortable alone.
Yeah.
And then, at 7 or 8 years old, they suddenly become withdrawn or irritable or start snapping when you go to put their harness on.
So what does this all mean? If it's not a sudden gap in their training, what is it?
It means you need to call your vet immediately. Sudden behavioral shifts in older dogs are very rarely regressions in obedience. They are massive red flags for underlying medical issues.
Oh, like they're in pain.
Exactly. A dog experiencing dental pain, arthritis, or failing vision cannot tell you they hurt. So, a previously social dog might start hiding under the bed or snapping to protect themselves from physical pain.
Because behavior is communication.
Always. They are telling you their baseline of safety has been compromised by pain.
Which really brings this entire conversation full circle.
Yeah.
For you listening, whether you own a Chihuahua or are thinking about bringing one into your home, or you're just fascinated by animal psychology, the ultimate takeaway from all this research is that every bark, every growl, every refusal to walk is communication.
Right.
They are not just stubborn little lapdogs acting out to spite you. They are highly intelligent, ancient companions operating on centuries of instinct.
And recognizing the why behind their behavior, understanding their neurology, their history, their physical reality is incredibly powerful.
It really is.
It transforms your daily frustration into genuine appreciation for who they are. And honestly, that is a lesson that applies to almost any relationship in life, not just with our pets.
Oh, absolutely.
When you understand the physiological and historical reasons behind where someone is coming from, the friction often disappears, replaced by empathy.
It really does. You stop fighting their nature and start working with it. And leaves me with one final thought from today's deep dive, something for all of you listening to mull over on your own. We learned today that a Chihuahua's entire worldview, their immense bravery, their reactivity, is shaped by the simple fact that it doesn't realize it is small. It acts boldly because it is entirely blind to its own scale. It makes you wonder, what invisible assumptions are we making about our own size, our own importance, or our own vulnerability in the world?
That's profound.
And how is that secretly dictating how we behave every single day?
It really makes you evaluate your own reactions to the world.
It does. Well, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We'll be back next time with another stack of sources to unpack. See you then.